sounds nominal. 5, 4, 3, signal array locked. Packet sync confirmed. Welcome all. You're connected to the Konotop Deep Space Signal Relay.
Greetings. I hope you are well. And as always, if I could get a mic check from anybody who's watching, that would be much appreciated so that I'm not talking to the void. Today is an interesting day for me. I've got a new piece of kit here. This is the Beringer Spice. And we'll see what we can do with it. This is very, very much going to be an experimental thing. Just let me switch cameras a sec. Is that working? No, that's not. Any vocals now? There should be vocals. What have we done, guys? Whoa. Any vocals now? Oh, we had vocals before. One sec. Vocals now? Gosh, this is a really great start. Yes, still good. Thank you, Rabbit. One of my cameras is not working, and I don't know why, but that's not important. You don't need to see my face. You can see the gear here. Yeah, this red box here in the corner, the one that's a bit sort of small on the main camera, is the Beringer Spice. It is a bit of a random piece of gear if you don't know anything about it yet. It's a clone of the Moog subharmonicon. It fits with the producer series or studio series, I think they called it, and effectively it's a very standard synth in the voicing that it's got. It's got two oscillators, but the way that those are split up is with subharmonics that play below them. So instead of having like an oscillator and then a filter and then whatever else, you can also add subharmonics from the oscillators. So I'll give you an idea of what that sounds like. I am so new to this. I got it about 4 or 5 hours ago, and I've had about 25-30 minutes to play on it. But it's already very, very interesting. So if I turn it down so that I've got one oscillator playing, it's got some lovely tone to it. The single first oscillator is playing a sequence now, obviously, with 4 steps. But those steps can be shifted around in the time of the clock so that you get something uneven. I can make it so that it's just even, or I can add in like these clock divisions to make it go a bit a bit more random. And there we go. So there's that, and then with the first oscillator, you've got two sub frequencies that you can bring into the mix. So I'll bring in sub frequency 1. And depending on what your main frequency is, the sub frequencies go up or down in relation to that original frequency. And then obviously, as I said, there's two sub frequencies you can select, so I'll pick a second one. And those frequencies are all quantized in this case, which basically means you can't have something that's off of a proper traditional note. But you can switch that off so that there's no quantization, and then you get like sliding scales. So if you put the quantizing back on, it plays in proper scales. And there's a few different scales, or a couple of different scales to choose from. You've got something called, it's not really a scale, tuning systems, I think you'd class them as. You've got just intonation, and you've got equal temperament. And I think the little I know of that is that sort of Western traditional music is more equal temperament, and then I think perhaps more esoteric things or maybe Eastern influenced in music might use the just intonation scales. Don't quote me on that, I'm no expert. I'm jabbering away here. I really hope this is the vocals are still going. But basically, that's oscillator 1. That gives you sort of like 3 tones that are related by some sort of division of the main frequency of the oscillator. So there's that. And then clearly you've got a second oscillator that you can do another set of frequencies, and both of those are controlled by a sequencer system which at the minute is blowing my mind. And I've watched some tutorials on it, but it's going to take a lot of getting used to. You've got 2 different sequences, each with 4 steps, and then you've got the ability to assign like divisions of the clock to each step of those sequences, which is a complicated thing, particularly if you want to do something that you are trying to plan out. So I don't think this instrument is something like that. DJ Emo, hello, thanks. Nice to see you, mate. Yeah, we're delving into the craziness that is the Spice. The first thing I did when I plugged this in, because I didn't want to go live on stream and then just fumble about for an hour going, I can't make it make any noise, which I think was a very real danger. It did take me sort of 5 minutes or so to figure out even the very basics of, all right, let's get the volume levels right, let's make sure that I can understand how an oscillator sounds, if you like. The first thing you can do to get noise out of it is literally just turn up VCO1's main level and then hit the trigger button, and it will play a note. The sequencing is a lot more complicated. You can basically make it do just individual steps that are straightforward. Let's do that. Just make it do a standard 1, 2, 3, 4 sequence. There we go. I've got a bit of reverb and stuff coming from the Zoom MS-CDR stomp pedal there, just to sort of liven up the sound a little bit. So that's basically getting individual notes to play at a tuning that you can pre-select on the sequence. Now where the next level of craziness goes is that you can assign changes in pitch to either the oscillator or the sub-oscillators per step on the sequence. So that's this first light. I hope you can see some of this even because the camera's a bit distant. The first oscillator, the main core tuning of that, is assigned to sequence 1. So if I adjust a few of the pitches of sequence 1, that should change the pitch of the main oscillator. And I'll turn down the sub-oscillators. There we go. So if I turn up sub-oscillator 1, that should play a standard pitch throughout if I've got this right. Oh, it's adjusting the pitch as well. So okay, right. So the pitch of that sub-oscillator will stay in relation with the same relationship to the core frequency of VCO1. If I put the sequencer sign on sub-oscillator 1, it will change. This is crazy. This will change the pitch relationship between that. This is a very weird machine, it really is. And I've not even touched the patching here. What I've got connected at the minute was my first experimentation to see if I could sync the edge with the subharmonicon, the spice. I think maybe that's a bit of a step too far at the minute. Just learning what I'm doing with this is going to be enough. What's going on in chat? I'm ignoring chat. Oh, okay, you guys are just saying hello and having coffee. That's good. I've got a tea here. I shall have a drink of tea. Crikey, that's hot. So yeah, next. We've got triangle wave, square wave, or a pulse width option for VCO1. So we go square there. And I can already hear some really nice sub in that. That's great. The pulse width apparently is varied by whatever the frequency of the original oscillator is, I think. Right, what else have we got? If I bring in the second VCO, and oh yeah, one of the other things that I saw on a tutorial was if you make the frequency of the oscillator quite high to start with, that's helpful because your sub-oscillators, by definition, are a lower division, or a lower, what's the word I'm looking for, ratio of that frequency that you pick. So if you go too low, then your sub-oscillators are going to be lower still and you won't hear them, or they'll just be muddy. So let's try and get... This is going to take so much time to get used to. The edge is something that, I don't know, within an hour or two I was like, yeah, I can see how I can use that in a really sort of straightforward way to a certain level. And then all of the patching and all of the kind of funkiness that you get with trying to pick your rhythms and stuff was the next step and the hurdles to go over. With this one, just learning the basics is going to be a lot more of a challenge. So yeah, let's get see if I can get sub-oscillator 2 to a tuning level that works. Oops. Let's reset that. That sounds horrid. That's actually a chord that works, but I would imagine that as soon as I do a pitch shift in the sequence, there's a chance that those things will go out of ratio. But we'll try the sequence and see how it comes out. So your polyrhythms get pretty crazy pretty quickly. I'm actually really sort of liking something that I didn't expect to be a feature, and that is that the envelopes for the filter don't re-trigger on every note. So whereas with the or by default you can override that, I think, but by default with the Edge, if you have some filter envelope, every time there's a note pulse, the filter will open and then close again if your envelope is showing that or set up to do that. Whereas this one, there's some change to the way that works. It's not like every trigger or every step will cause the envelope to fluctuate. Nice. So, yeah, by itself, the machine is way more complicated than anything I've ever dealt with in terms of a hardware synth, just to get core functionality. But that is something that really appealed to me. The ability to sit and sort of come up with something that's a lot more outside of the standard four on the floor techno, and the ability to sort of patch it in with the Edge as well, because I've seen some cool stuff. I will put some links in the description, or the description of this live stream when I've finished, from a chap whose stuff I really can't remember his YouTube handle, but he's got the Edge, the Spice, and the Crave, and he's linked all three of them, and they are feeding off each other, and they're patched in a very modular-esque way. Albeit these machines are all semi-modular, so super cool stuff. So yeah, as soon as I've got my head around how this thing works, I'll see if I can start patching them together. Where I was going to start with was at least some way of trying to get the drums from the TR-8S so that they can synchronize with the other two Behringer bits of kit. And I did find a solution, but I don't know whether that overrides some of the cool polyrhythmic stuff. It seemed to override it. But what I did, let me see if I can get this straight. I had the TR-8S clock out going into the play patch input on the Spice. So that then meant that the triggers on the TR-8S, each one of them would tell the Spice to move along a step. So let's see if I can get that to work. And I think I have to turn off a few bits and bobs. So that is 16th notes running on the TR-8S, causing every step to progress on the Spice with whichever oscillator is playing. So then if I take out a few of the steps on the triggers, that clearly controls the timing. Can add in random stuff or non-sequential stuff there. So that in itself is kind of a cool thing. and then the trigger out of the spice is going into the clock advance on the bearing edge. So by doing that, I've at least got something that I can tie in with the drum machine already, and that was a win, because when I first sort of got the piece of kit in the post earlier today, what I thought was, I'll take the box and do a proper unboxing on camera, and then I'll try and play it and all this. And I was like, nah, I'm setting myself up for failure there. I'll have 20 minutes of YouTube live where I'm going, I can't make it make a noise. So thankfully, I've at least got over a couple of those hurdles. Now, as I say, I think the downside to having it linked in the way that I've got it here is that the nice polyrhythmic things that the Spice does itself are completely negated by having these triggers sent to it. It just means that whatever I do on the TR-8S is going to sort of trigger the Spice, whether it would make a noise by itself or not in that context. So that is a very sort of regular sequence that's coming through, and I'll leave the kick drum in the background just so that you can get a reference of the timing. So yeah, if I turn on any of these sequence buttons at the bottom here, which are supposed to vary the polyrhythmic nature of it, those just don't work in this case, because it's ignoring its own sequencer in favor of the triggers that are coming in. I think that's a bit of a downer. So if I take out that link to the TR-8S, the machine is making its own sort of randomized, or not randomized, but polyrhythmic alterations to the clock signal. So there's pros and cons to what I've done there. It's going to take a bit of time to figure out the best way to integrate this with other bits of hardware. One of the other things that I thought that I could do was just almost like completely ignore the idea of a clock signal from everything else and have this in the background as a like a pad sound, if you like. So with the right effects, I mean, let's see what I can come up with. See if we can make something a bit percussive with the edge, and then just leave the Spice with like pad sounds, if you like. So yeah, with the Spice unconnected from like the clock signals of everything else. You could almost use it as like a chord sort of machine and an ambience generator. That sounds horrid, but you get the idea. Okay, what's chat saying? I'm having too much fun. I should be seeing if there's anybody coming up with some useful bits of information for me. Emo's talking about the fact that it's got subby fart sounds, nice textures. Third-party editor for the Spice at £2. I didn't know that there was anything in the way of an editor. That's actually a nice thing to have. Tailbiter's site has it. A pretty fun box. You'd book a week off if you got one. I can see the reason for doing that. Definitely, it's going to take me away from a lot of tasks that I've got this weekend. Put it this way, I think it's one of those bits of kit that I think people are going to love or hate if they have it themselves. And one of the biggest sort of challenges is going to be trying to work out whether it integrates or how it integrates in whatever other gear you've got. For me, there were two things that sort of crossed my mind. The first one is having it set up with everything else as I say, like a pad or a background atmospheric thing, or the polyrhythmic side of it being a lot more freeform and random than I would come up with in the way of a sequence on something like the circuit. And then the other way was to literally take it away from the drums and the looper and all the other synchronized and timing based things and just patch it with the edge. And then inevitably I'm going to end up getting the crave or the grind, which are the other two units of this sort of format that Behring have done. The crave I stayed away from this time because it's by itself very, very similar in the way I use the circuit. It's a mono synth. It's got 2 oscillators. It's got I think it's 2 oscillators. It's got a standard filter and sequencer and things like that. And as I say, by itself, it doesn't do anything major that I can't do on the circuit already. However, all the patching capabilities and the fact that it's the same format as these physically really are making me think that when I've got this thing under control and I've got a bit more money saved up, I'll probably end up buying the Crave as well. And having the 3 of them in a little rack, not only is it going to look really cool, it's also going to be lovely fun just to stay away from the screen or stay away from the sort of drummy side of things and just go mental on making lab sounds. I also I also think that it might end up being like my entry drug to the world of modular when I start to really play with these things too much. What's Emo saying? Grab that editor for sure, Mike, then you can prep and save all sorts of your maneuvers. Again, I probably will at some point, but this is, again, something that will drag me in front of a computer screen if I've got an editor for it. And I honestly don't, without going and looking at what that editor does, I don't know how it could do anything to support the Spice. I'll have to go and find out, because I didn't think the Spice did anything that's not available on the front panels. We'll have to see. Perhaps there's patching options, or there is one thing that I know that it can do when it's tied up to a computer, or at least CC messages will allow it to do something different with the envelopes. I did see that somewhere. Anyway, that's kind of by the by. There's more than enough for me to get on with here. It's got the standard MIDI in, out, and through as well, which is something that I'll be honest, I don't use as things stand at the minute, because I've been able to sort of clock the edge with the triggers from the TR8S, and it would seem I can sort of synchronize the two with clock functions as well, even if I don't have the 8S in there. But yeah, as I say, there's a lot to go at on this thing. Let me just have another play, see if I can make some decent sounds. There's probably a bit of microphone noise from me moving my microphone arm around a bit, so apologies for that. Okay, let's see what we can come up with here. I'm going to desync it from everything else and just play with it by itself for a little while. So this is what I was talking about. If you listen to the sound, it's almost like there's an LFO over the filter because of the way the steps are working sort of out of sync with the filter opening and closing. I haven't got my head around how that works yet. I'm going to go back on what I said, and I'll see if I can link the Spice with the edge. So I'm going to make this up as I go. I don't know if this will work. So if I take, I guess it's trigger out and stick it in clock advance. No, that's not worked. That's not what. Oh, okay. That's something I've got to watch. The power button on the Spice is in a position where I'm going to be knocking it all the time until I get it in a rack or something, I think. Let's try that again. So I'm going from trigger out. Right, now because we've got polyrhythmic stuff coming from the Spice, the steps are not regular, so therefore the edges, triggers that it receives, those are also not regular, which is one of those new things to get used to. Territory now. What's Emo saying? Sounds great in my opinion. Pure analog gravy kind of sound, yeah. Ekmar, hi, nice to see you. Can't bear a new band member, nice moves, Mike. And Victor Cyber State Music's here as well. Nice to see you. Hi. Right, let's come up with something different. Let's go. Turn down all the sub frequencies. start off with a single oscillator. Reset. Okay. Now let's pick a subfrequency 1. Ooh, that's some weird tuning. Oh, am I on the right kind of tuning scale? Yeah, I thought I was. There we go. And subfrequency 2. Part of the reason is I've got like a shimmer reverb, which is pitching everything as well. Let me change that. That's going to be more trouble than it's worth. There we go. That doesn't sound quite as weird now. That's quite a nice chord. And then we've got our sequence. Let's get that running. And we'll add some randomness to the steps. And then we'll add sequence 2. No, sorry, we'll change some of the pitches on sequence 1. And let's bring in sequence 2 for oscillator 2. Crazy. So much crazy stuff. I'm starting to see why people get drawn into modular. I really am. I think the ability to just get lost in this and spend hours just creating soundscapes with hopefully with a recorder running in the background, and then take chunks of that to sort of create something more full and fleshed out is quite exciting. With some other effects and stuff thrown on it as well, it does sound very nice. Let's do it without effects and see how it comes out just from a pure sound point of view. And let's play it with its own tempo and stuff. Reset. What tends to happen, I believe, and I'm starting to see it, is when you start messing with the timing divisions of the sequencer, if you do that while the sequencer is running, you not only do you get like polyrhythms that you might expect as being quantized, but sort of strange time ratios, but they also slip out of quantization. So that's why the reset button, I gather, is quite an important one to keep a hold of. So if you kind of make a change to it and then hit the reset button, you'll find that if you've got a very specific sort of polyrhythm that you'd created that's off of grid, if you like, if you press that reset button, you'll lose it. So that's something to be aware of. Right. Let's go off of some of the quantized pitches. Just intonation 12. That is chromatic, which basically means if you've got a keyboard, traditional keyboard with a black and white notes, chromatic means the ability to play every note that's on that keyboard like black and white notes. If you go with the 8 signifiers on either just intonation or equal temperament, I believe that means working within a scale, so you can't play notes that are outside of that scale. Therefore, if you were playing, let's say, C major on a standard keyboard, you'd be playing just the white notes. So my music theory is not amazing, so please somebody correct me if I've got that wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on that. So That's interesting. That's a different patch on the zoom pedal, which does like pitch shifting. I knew that would go crazy, but I didn't realize it would kind of give it quite so much depth. So this is the spice without that patch. And then with like a stair stepping in the background, that's actually quite fun. Okay. I'm going to see if I can do some stuff with drums again. Again, today is literally just a day for me to play with this on screen. And see if there's some stuff that I can come up with which is interesting, as well as to learn how to get some things out of it that are worth listening to. So let's stick that back in there. That's a bit of a stretch. I need some longer patch cables. Don't expect too much from a jam like this now. There's bits in there that I could use. What's everybody saying? Victor's giving us high five. Oh, there's a few people that I've not seen in here today. That's nice. Dave Salazar, nice to see you. Yippee yay yay. This thing is a challenge, isn't it? No kidding. It's early days for me, let's put it that way. Wabbit said nice vibe, thanks. Hauptmann der Bier Trinker Brie. Hello. Yeah, good to see you. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, as I say, I think I will have a lot of fun with this, but it will also be a challenge. I think the biggest challenge will be making sure that whatever sub-frequencies I choose will match with each other. Picking the individual oscillators and sort of getting those tuned up isn't too bad, but it's then when you've got, if you think about it, you've got oscillator 1 and 2 frequencies, oscillator 2 and another 2 frequencies. If you want to use all of those at the same time, you've got to be pretty careful that you pick the right pitches. That's one aspect that's really going to be tough to do on the fly, because my sort of first reaction is always, what can I do in a live setting and an improvisation setting? Let's go again. Okay, that's something. Actually, we'll pitch that all down a bit. Ooh. Actually, we'll change the tempo a bit. Let's go with that, and then we'll see if we can adjust some of the pitches with the sequencer. That's sequencer 2. Ooh. Crikey, this is tough. Okay, so at the minute I've got sequencer 1 is changing the pitches of oscillator 1, and sequencer 2 is changing the pitches of oscillator 2. So that's these 4 dials for oscillator 2. So let's turn down 1 at the minute. That's because I've got a sub-level. This is challenging to get like the two machines with all the different pitches that they each offer all synchronized. Yeah, the edge is tough to sort of pitch in with this at the same time. Cool. I think I probably need a break from this lovely little machine right now. It's so much to mess with that it's kind of doing my head in. If everybody is having fun, then I really appreciate you having come in and coming in on this live session. I'm probably going to call a halt now. If you've got any queries or questions, leave them in the chat. I will go off and do my homework and do a little bit more work on this thing. It's as I say, it's really nice to be able to sort of play on this kind of kit. I've been very fortunate that I can just buy it because I really felt like I wanted to add to my setup a little bit. One of the things that a few people have said in the last 2 or 3 weeks on YouTube to me is that they appreciate the fact that I don't stray too far from the core bits of gear that I've got, and that's often been what gives me so much pleasure as well, is just using the bits that I have gone out and bought. It feels very much worthwhile digging into things as deeply as I can, and I would recommend anybody who's got some hardware and they're playing with it to challenge yourself. Take a bit of time to sort of look at that one bit of gear that maybe you know on a surface level, and see if you can sort of dig under the hood a little bit more, because there's often things that I've overlooked in the gear that I've got. So anyway, I'll call a halt. Thanks very much for popping in. I hope that was at least of interest to see the thing from the standpoint of somebody who's never touched one before. And I will no doubt either do a few tutorials when I get something that I can teach, as opposed to just making noises on it. But until then, it will be making plinky plonking noises in the background. So thanks all. Nice to see you. Cheers then.